Welcome to the 1 Hour Guide by Anil Nathu. This deep dive is all about peeling back the layers and exploring the core ideas, the science, and the practical strategies behind Steven Kotler's compelling book, The Art of Impossible, a peak performance primer.
Yeah, we've really, gone through the source material, the articles, the research, his notes, interviews, everything that built this book.
Exactly. And our mission today, really, is to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge, those key insights, to give you a kind of shortcut to understanding what it truly takes to achieve goals that might feel right now completely outside your reach.
Or maybe even beyond what you've, ever imagined for yourself.
Right. That's the core, isn't it?
It really is. The central theme, woven through everything we looked at, is that achieving the impossible. While it isn't magic, it's definitely not about some innate talent you either have or, you don't.
So what is it then?
According to the book, there's actually a formula, a recipe, if you like. And this book is basically the cookbook built on years of studying peak performers, all kinds of fields.
Okay, so understanding that formula is like the first step. If you actually want to make the seemingly impossible happen in your own life.
It's absolutely necessary. Yeah.
Okay, so let's unpack this idea then, the impossible and this formula. Kotler makes a really critical distinction right up front. It really struck me.
The two types.
Yeah, there's the capital I impossible. You know, the truly groundbreaking stuff, feats never done before. Think Roger Bannister.
The 4-minute mile, yeah, when everyone knew it was physically impossible.
Exactly. Or climbing Everest without oxygen for the first time.
Yeah.
Things that just rewrite what we think humans can do on a global scale.
Right, the big world-altering breakthroughs. They shift our collective understanding. But then, and this is where the book gets really practical for you listening, there's the lowercase I, impossible.
Oh, okay. So this isn't about breaking world records.
Not necessarily. This is about the goals you have, the dreams you're chasing, the things that feel completely impossible for you right now.
So maybe a different scale than Everest, but that feeling, that sense of it being beyond your current skills, your imagination.
Yeah.
That's the same.
Identical. That perceived barrier is the key.
And I really appreciate how he uses his own story. Becoming a writer. That was his lowercase is impossible.
Totally. Growing up in Cleveland, family in industrial trades, he didn't know any writers. This was way before the internet made things easier.
So for him, becoming a successful author, it felt like trying to jump to the moon, just completely out of reach.
But what did he do? He sat down, pen to paper, every day, started figuring it out, piece by piece.
And the sources really hammer this home.
Yeah.
The book draws lessons, powerful strategies from people who achieve those huge capital I wins impossibles.
Like those action sports athletes he reported on for years, pushing boundaries like crazy.
Right. But the book's real purpose, its ultimate aim, is to be a practical, step-by-step playbook for anyone seriously chasing their own lowercase unimpossible goals.
That's such an important point, because he doesn't sugarcoat it, does he?
Not at all. Stalking the impossible, even your personal version, isn't just like a comfortable self-improvement exercise.
No way. The sources describe it as intensely demanding, sometimes isolating, maybe less fun, in the usual sense. Could even be dangerous, depending what you're doing.
And this is the big why the payoff.
Yeah.
That depth of meaning, the fulfillment you get from really engaging with your absolute potential, it's just way greater than the alternative. Living safely within your limits.
That intensity, he saw it firsthand, right? Reporting on action sports back in the 90s.
He called it a period of brain-scrambling innovation.
Yeah.
Things that were literally impossible one morning.
Were happening by the afternoon, yeah. The boundaries of risk, of what humans could do, they were just shifting daily.
Yeah.
Right in front of him.
It completely shattered his ideas about limits. Take surfing.
Yeah.
I mean, humans have surfed for over 1,000 years.
Ancient activity.
Yeah. But for almost all that time, progress was incredibly slow. From like the 4th century AD all the way to 1996. The biggest wave ever ridden was apparently around 25 feet.
And people thought that was it, right? Physics, biology, anything bigger was just impossible.
That was the common wisdom.
Yeah.
And then, boom, suddenly the dam just broke.
And just a couple decades later, surfers aren't just riding 25-foot waves, they're paddling into 60-footers. using toe-ins for 100-foot giants.
That crazy acceleration, that rapid shattering of limits,
Yeah.
that's what drove him. He had to figure out how this happens. He started looking for the underlying patterns.
And he found a clue early on, kind of surprisingly, from his childhood obsession with magic.
Right. He spent years hanging around a magic shop watching these incredible illusions.
And the big lesson he took away, no matter how impossible a trick looked from the audience's view.
There was always a logical formula behind it. Mechanics, misdirection, tons of practice.
Always. One of his magic mentors told him something that stuck. Very little is impossible with 10 years practice.
It wasn't actual magic. It was applied logic and just immense dedication. Like human flight, impossible, 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 until someone cracked the formula.
If you don't know the formula, it looks like magic. But the formula exists. And crucially, it can be learned.
So he went on this quest, hunting for this hidden formula, studying peak performers everywhere, arts, science, tech, business, sports. What lets people level up dramatically, achieve those breakthroughs? What does it really take?
And after all that research, the sources show the answer boils down to 4 core skill sets. 4 pillars supporting the whole structure of high performance.
Okay, what are they?
Motivation, learning, creativity, and flow.
Motivation, learning, creativity, flow.
Got it. And they're not isolated things. They really build on each other. Motivation, that's the fuel. Gets you started, pushes you into the arena.
Okay.
Learning is how you adapt, improve, stay in the game for the long haul.
Makes sense. You got to keep learning.
Creativity, that's your navigation system. How you find the way forward when you hit walls or go off map, which happens all the time chasing impossible goals.
Right. There's no clear path usually.
Huh?
And flow.
Flow. That's the turbo boost. The state that lets you perform way beyond what seems reasonable, amplifies results like crazy.
Wow. And the book frames peak performance itself.
Yeah.
Not like a race you win and finish.
Exactly. More like an infinite game. He borrows from William James, the philosopher, who pointed out most of us live way inside our actual limits. We don't tap our full potential.
So in this infinite game, you can't win forever, but you can definitely lose.
You can lose by stopping, by not pursuing your potential, by not constantly improving.
So the real art of the impossible, then, isn't just hitting one big goal.
No. It's about mastering these 4 skills. Motivation, learning, creativity, flow, so you can stay engaged, adapt, and keep pushing your boundaries within that infinite game, making peak performance sustainable. A lifestyle.
Okay, that makes sense. And the sources say the book is structured logically around these 4 pillars.
Yep. Part 1, motivation, the psychological and biological fuel. Part 2, learning how you stay in the game. Though, the sources we looked at focus more on the process of learning within the other pillars, rather than a deep dive into learning itself.
Gotcha. Part 3, creativity, your steering wheel in the unknown. And Part 4, flow, the performance amplifier.
And that's exactly how we'll structure this deep dive. We'll explore the key concepts, the science, the actionable insights from the chapters covered in the source material for each part, starting right at the foundation, motivation.
Excellent. Part 1,
Yeah.
motivation. Chapters 1 through 5 in the material we reviewed. And Chapter 1 kicks things off with something I found genuinely surprising. The deep biological basis of drive.
It's a game-changer perspective, right? We usually think motivation is just mental effort, willpower, positive thinking.
Yeah, just got to want it more.
But the sources make it super clear. Drive is deeply rooted in our biology, hardwired into our brains, managed by specific neurochemicals.
So the brain uses these, 7 ancient neurochemical networks?
Yes.
Found in all mammals to drive behavior.
That's Jack Panksepp's research, yeah. These networks handle basic drives: fear, anger, grief, lust, nurture. The fundamentals.
Okay. But which ones specifically drive?
The 2 main players are the play-social engagement system and the seeking desire system.
Play and social engagement. Seems pretty straightforward. Bonding, trust, connection. Oxytocin, serotonin. Motivates us to connect with others.
Right. But then there's the seeking desire system. People often call it the reward system, but Panksepp found it's way bigger than that.
How so?
Yes, it helps us get resources, but its main job, driving intense and enthusiastic exploration and anticipatory excitement and learning, it literally fills your mind with interest, curiosity. It motivates that effortless search for things.
Wow. And that's powered by dopamine and norepinephrine.
Heavily. Dopamine isn't just pleasure after the reward. It's more about the seeking, the anticipation. It drives action, risk-taking before you get the thing. And norepinephrine, crucial for focus, alertness, pushes you forward.
So when these systems are active and, importantly, aligned,
Yeah.
your basic biology is working for you.
Exactly. The source is called Building This Alignment, the stack. Build your intrinsic drivers correctly, line them up, your biology gets on board, and suddenly, chasing those big, impossible goals feels less like fighting yourself.
And more like riding a wave.
Precisely. It's a feedback loop, too. The very act of chasing the impossible reinforces the biological drive to keep chasing it.
Okay, so the big insight from chapter 1. Motivation isn't just mental, it's biological. You can understand it, harness it, align your actions with these seeking and engagement systems, and you tap into a serious engine for persistence.
And building right on that biology, Chapter 2 gives us the practical passion recipe, how to actually cultivate those intrinsic drivers.
Right, the process. Curiosity leads to passion, then you transform passion into purpose.
And it's not presented as like a quick fix. Finding your passion isn't usually a lightning bolt moment.
No, he emphasizes it takes time. Weeks, maybe months.
Yeah.
Exploring, refining, making sure the foundation is strong before you invest years.
It starts simple, but takes effort. List 25 things you're curious about. Anything. No judgment. Just list them.
25 seems like a lot, but I guess it forces you past the obvious stuff.
Exactly. Gets you digging deeper. But just curiosity isn't enough. It's scattered. The next crucial step, hunt for intersections.
Looking for overlap between, like, 3 or 4 things on the list, even if they seem totally unrelated.
Yep. Like that weird example in the sources. The mechanics of a football left tackle.
Yeah.
And grasshoppers.
Yeah. Seems random.
Totally random on the surface, but follow it. Maybe it leads to questions about a left tackle's nutritional needs, strength, endurance, which then sparks curiosity about alternative high-protein foods, like insects.
Okay, so the power isn't the specific combo, it's finding those unexpected links.
Exactly. Intersections massively amp up engagement, and crucially, they create fertile ground for pattern recognition. The brain loves linking new ideas.
And making those links gives you those little dopamine squirts. Feels good.
Right. Dopamine reinforces that exploration. So hunting intersections floods your system with the neurochemistry you need to go from scattered curiosity to focused passion.
Okay, so you find that intersection, you ignite your passion. But the book warns, passion can be kind of selfish.
It can be. Powerful, but internally focused. And for impossible goals, you almost always need help, collaboration, support. So you need to transform that internal fire of passion
Into the external rocket fuel of purpose.
vital transformation. Purpose shifts your focus off you and your desires onto something bigger, benefiting others, a cause, serving the task itself. It connects to self-determination theory, that need for relatedness, connection beyond yourself.
Why is shifting outwards so important, so protective?
Neurobiologically, it guards against getting stuck in your own head. Excessive self-rumination, that internal loop. Research shows it's a major root of anxiety, depression. Purpose decreases activity in the default mode network, the rumination network, and increases activity in the executive attention network focused on external tasks.
So it literally changes your brain activity.
Yeah.
Makes you less likely to get trapped inside yourself.
Exactly. And the benefits just cascade from there. Strong purpose boosts motivation, resilience against setbacks, focus, and even long-term physical health. Lower risk of stroke, dementia, heart disease. The research cited is pretty amazing.
That's incredible. A psychological state impacting physical health so profoundly. Okay, so the actionable insight from the passion recipe. Don't wait for passion. Cultivate it. Explore curiosity intersections. Find the overlaps. Then consciously turn that passion into a purpose bigger than yourself. Frame your goal in terms of how it helps others or the world. That selfless framing, it's a much stronger, more sustainable motivator, and it protects you.
And that strong foundation, curiosity, passion, purpose, all lined up creates the perfect setup for the next driver. Autonomy, Chapter 3.
Right. Self-determination theory again. We're most driven when we feel like we're directing our own lives, acting out of interest, enjoyment, aligning with our core values.
Which makes total sense, right? If you've done the work dialing in curiosity, passion, purpose, you are acting out of interest and alignment. That maximizes the power of autonomy.
And autonomy makes us more effective.
Dramatically. The sources say it amplifies drive, sharpens focus, boosts productivity, optimism, resilience, creativity, even health benefits. Feeling in control matters.
The book gives those great company examples. 3M, Google, they bet big on autonomy.
3M's 15% rule, letting engineers spend 15% of paid time on their own projects. That started back in 1948.
Wow, that's commitment.
And think about it. Post-it notes came from that. Generates over $1 billion a year now. Google's 20% time was similar.
So if huge companies see massive returns from giving employees just 15–20% autonomous time, What does that mean for us and our own impossible goals?
It suggests you don't need to leap immediately. Quit your job tomorrow, maybe not. But dedicating even just 4 or 5 hours a week, maybe an afternoon, an hour a day, to your passion purpose project, if you've aligned the drivers first, that can yield serious results over time.
And how you schedule that time is key too, right? Controlling your schedule helps with sleep and working with your body clock.
Absolutely non-negotiable. 7 through 8 hours of quality sleep. Consistently. The sources are blunt. Lack of sleep tanks almost everything you need for peak performance. Motivation, memory, learning, focus, reaction time, emotional control. You just can't chase impossible goals sleep deprived.
And figuring out your peak times. Morning lark, night owl. And scheduling your toughest work then.
Leverages your biology. Maximum effectiveness.
So the actionable insight for autonomy. Carve out dedicated, protected time, even just 4 to 5 hours a week to start. Fight for control over your schedule, prioritize sleep, align work with your peak times, and learn to say no. Protect that crucial autonomous time.
From autonomy, we move to chapter 4, mastery. That deep desire to just get better. Devotion to craft, needing progress, that urge to continually improve.
Building little victory atop little victory.
Exactly. And each little win, each bit of improvement is rewarding. Remember dopamine. It shows up before the risk, encouraging the action that leads to mastery. It's biological, the drive to explore and innovate.
So mastery is that internal drive to keep improving within that infinite game of peak performance.
It's the engine of development, and it's absolutely critical for getting into flow, especially for hitting that challenge skills balance. You need mastery to take on bigger challenges. Higher mastery means a higher potential zone for flow.
Which leads perfectly into chapter 5. Grit. This is the energy for the long haul, right? Years of difficult tasks. What keeps you going when things get tough?
The tenacity. The sources lean on Angela Duckworth's definition. Grit is where passion and perseverance intersect. Her research. Grit is twice as important as IQ for academic success. True across many fields. All high achievers are paragons of perseverance, the book says.
But it's not just one thing, is it? The sources break grit down into, what, 6 different types that peak performers train?
Yeah, it's more nuanced. First is perseverance itself. Basic day-to-day steadfastness, mental toughness, do the hard thing, embrace the suck, that kind of grit.
Okay. Second, willpower, self-control, resisting distraction, delaying gratification, and it feels finite.
It feels finite. Whether it's literally glucose or not, the experience is that it declines. So the strategy, scheduling. Eat your ugly frog first. Hardest task when willpower is highest.
And if it flags later?
State shifting. Naps, meditation, exercise, quick resets to boost cognitive capacity.
Third type, mindset. Growth versus fixed. Believing you can develop abilities through hard work.
Foundational for learning, resilience, overcoming negative self-talk. And the sources say positive self-talk works best when it's grounded. Remind yourself of actual past successes, the skills you used, more effective than empty affirmations.
Fourth, gratitude. This works against the brain's negativity bias.
Big time. Our amygdala, the threat detector, filters info with like a 9.1 negative bias, stresses us out, limits optimism, kills creativity because novelty seems risky.
So a daily gratitude practice, just 5 minutes, it trains the amygdala to let more positive stuff in because it's based on real things.
Exactly. It bypasses the brain's bullshit detector, rewires the bias over time, plus it lowers anxiety, which helps access flow.
Fifth, mastering fear. Bravery isn't no fear, it's acting despite fear. Like that Laird Hamilton story.
Yeah, you too. Even the best feel it. Fear is energy, a directional arrow. Learn to notice it in your body, embrace it, ask what it's telling you. You can confront it gradually, desensitization, or all at once, flooding. And recalling past successes helps too. Practice those skills.
Sixth, training your weaknesses. This is about practicing being your best when you feel your worst.
Like the author practicing on an Indo board when exhausted. It's not about being perfect when tired. It's about understanding your fail points under pressure so you can handle it when it counts.
And the last one, recovery grit. This sounds hard for driven people.
Super hard. Momentum feels key. Stopping feels wrong. But recovery is essential. Avoid burnout, the enemy of long-term performance. Burnout causes cognitive decline.
And it requires grit to choose active recovery. Mindfulness, sauna, stretching, ice baths.
Over just passive stuff like TV and beer. Passive recovery often doesn't work well. TV can still be cognitively demanding without being physically restorative.
Okay, so the big takeaway on grit. It's not fixed. It's a multifaceted skill set. These 6 types, you can train them, practice them, develop what the book calls the habit of ferocity.
automatizing that instinct to lean into difficulty, not away. It combines drive, goals, grit, lowers cognitive load eventually because you trust yourself to handle hard things. You build it through consistent practice.
That covers motivation really well. What gets you started keeps you going. Then the book moves into learning how you stay in the game. And as you said, the sources we focus on weave learning into the other pillars rather than dedicating separate chapters to learning theory itself.
Right, learning is constant. It's part of training mastery, handling struggle, adapting your approach. It's woven throughout the whole process.
Which makes sense because chasing impossible goals, there's rarely a clear path. You're in the unknown, facing unexpected problems. You need a way to navigate. Which brings us to part 3, creativity, the steering mechanism.
And chapter 16 is about hacking creativity. What is creativity here and how does the brain do it?
Well, the sources mention the standard definitions, Guilford's 4 C's.
Yeah.
Fluency, flexibility, originality, elaboration, basically developing original ideas that have value.
And it's not just left brain, right brain, right. That's outdated.
Definitely outdated. Creativity uses multiple brain networks working together. Our bigger cortex gives us that space between input and output, allows options, choices, complex plans.
And the key networks are?
The executive attention network, EAN, for focus and filtering, the imagination network or default mode network, DMN, for daydreaming, simulating possibilities, and the salience network, the scanner, detecting novelties, switching between the other two.
And creative brains are wired a bit differently. They notice novelty more easily, stronger connections between those networks.
Seems so. Better at spotting the important new stuff and shifting between focused work and imaginative exploration. So knowing that, how do we actually train these networks? Hack our creativity.
Okay, several methods. First, the non-negotiables. Gratitude, mindfulness, exercise, sleep. These aren't just wellness fluff. They create the optimal biological state for creativity. Lean into them when stressed. Don't drop them.
Got it. Foundational. What else?
Broaden your horizons. Actively seek novelty, complexity, unpredictability. Travel, diverse friends, new activities gives your brain new raw material.
Makes sense? Feed the machine.
Third, non-time and incubation. Creativity needs downtime, unstructured time, daydreaming time. Let that default mode network wander. Avoid constant time pressure. Stress narrows focus, kills big picture thinking.
And fourth, that practical technique, the MacGyver method, programming your subconscious.
Yeah, it's cool. Step 1, define the problem. Write it down clearly. Step 2, incubate. Do something lightly stimulating, shower, walk, chores. Occupy the conscious mind. Let the subconscious, faster, more powerful. Work on it. Step 3, retrieve the idea later. Re-engage consciously.
And the big benefit is less anxiety about being stuck, because you know your subconscious is on the case.
Exactly. Frees up your conscious mind. So the actionable insight. Train your creativity networks. Foundational habits. Seek novelty. Schedule downtime. Use techniques like MacGyver to leverage your subconscious.
Then Chapter 17 tackles long-haul creativity, sustaining it for decades. Constant reinvention, the infinite game of originality.
And the science here is thinner, right? More based on interviews with super creative people who've done it for years.
Yeah, people like Tim Ferriss. His maker schedule idea, big blocks of uninterrupted time, 4 hours plus, no distractions.
And his long walks, mandatory incubation, no music or podcasts, let the mind wander, activate that DMN for remote associations.
Critical strategy, ask the better question. Surround yourself with people who challenge you, who see your blind spots, can tell you you're asking the wrong question. Choosing those feedback givers carefully is key.
That advice from Garcia Marquez. Stop working when you're most excited, mid-sentence. Feels so wrong.
Totally counterintuitive. But it carries momentum into the next day. Less fear, less ramp up. Keeps the creative engine running smoothly day after day.
Embracing frustration. Also essential. It's unavoidable. It's the signal you've hit an obstacle needing an innovative solution. Doesn't feel good, but necessary.
And creativity is a byproduct. You can't force it.
It emerges from passionate hard work. Deep mastery. Stack those drivers, engage deeply, solve problems. Creativity happens. Less about trying to be creative, more about doing the work.
And finally, always keep your word, especially to yourself. Creative types often have those both-and contradictions. Managing that requires internal integrity, acting on your intentions.
So for long-haul creativity, structure your time, deep work, incubation, seek challenging feedback, leverage momentum, stop mid-flow, embrace frustration, trust the process, creativity follows mastery, and keep your word to yourself. Build that sustainable creative practice.
Which brings creativity and flow together in Chapter 18, the flow of creativity. The idea that flow is basically the brain on creative overdrive.
Remember that land study, 98% of 4 to 5-year-olds scoring genius-level creativity. Then it drops off.
Yeah. Land blamed schools for beating it out of kids.
Oh.
But the sources say his test was flawed. Creativity needs multi-network use, not separate styles.
And the key insight is, flow achieves that multi-network state naturally. It's like the creativity of a 4-year-old, but without the downsides.
How does flow do that neurobiologically?
Transient hypofrontality quiets the prefrontal cortex, the inner critic, the self-monitor. Gone. Meanwhile, the default mode network, imagination, is active, slightly tweaked. Salience network is boosted, pattern recognition, remote associations up. Amygdala, fear is down, negativity bias reduced.
So brain state optimized for new ideas, connections, without the judgment and fear that usually block it.
Exactly. Flow is creative overdrive, which leads to a huge actionable insight. Want to boost creativity? Seek more flow. The state itself is the creativity hack.
Okay, that's the big question then. How do you actually get into flow?
Perfect transition to part 4, flow. Chapter 19, The Decoder Ring, starts with the author's personal story. Chronic illness, suicidal thoughts, finding relief through surfing, experiencing cosmic unity.
Feeling one with everything in the waves. And he connects this to science, like Andrew Newberg's work on meditating nuns and monks.
Yeah. Newberg used brain scans, found profound shifts during ecstatic states. Intense focus requires energy. Brain saves energy by shutting down non-critical areas, including the parietal lobe.
The part that draws the line between me and not me.
Exactly. Parietal lobe goes quiet, boundary dissolves.
Yeah.
You feel one with everything.
So the author wondered, could the intense focus of big wave surfing trigger the same mechanism, same brain shift, same flow state, same cosmic unity feeling?
And the answer was yes. His experience, the research, it confirmed the link.
So the insight, intense focus, whether meditation, action sports, deep work, it's a path to altered states like flow, connection. It's biological with real benefits.
Chapter 20 dives deeper into flow science, gives the context. Nietzsche, post-Darwin, linking peak performance to biology, not divine gifts.
And then Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi coining flow after interviewing thousands about their peak moments.
Right. He found universal characteristics. Action awareness merge, automaticity, sense of self vanishes, inner critic gone. Altered time, deep now. Intrinsically rewarding activity is the reward. Effortlessness, ease, sense of control, and that crucial challenge skills balance.
Challenge, slightly exceeding skill. The sweet spot.
And the science backs this up. Transient hypofrontality, PFC, quiets down. Brainwaves shift to alpha-theta border, bursts of gamma during insights.
And that neurochemical cocktail.
The big 6. Dopamine, norepinephrine, endorphins, anandamide, serotonin, oxytocin. Explains the reward, the focus, the productivity, boosts that 500% figure from McKinsey. Fear systems down, reward system up, self gone.
So understanding the subjective feel and the biology, you see why flow is the ultimate performance state. Less noise, optimized focus, potent rewards.
Which brings us to Chapter 21, Flow Triggers. How do you turn it on? The key phrase, flow follows focus. Triggers drive attention into the now.
How do they work? Pushing focus chemicals like dopamine or epinephrine, or lowering cognitive load?
Both. And guess what are the most powerful triggers?
Let me guess. The intrinsic drivers. Curiosity, passion, purpose, autonomy, mastery.
Bingo. They all double as flow triggers. When aligned, they naturally drive the right neurochemistry, lower cognitive load. Misalignment. That feels like anxiety.
So the most reliable path to flow. Intrinsic trigger stacking. Sequence them right. Curiosity, passion, purpose, the plan, autonomy, freedom. Apply mastery skills. Lock those in, you've got a powerful internal trigger.
Beyond the stack, the single most important trigger, challenge skills balance. Task has to push you just slightly beyond your current skill. Demands focus, but doesn't overwhelm. Break tasks into challenging yet manageable chunks.
Like the writer aiming for 3 great paragraphs, not the whole chapter at once. Specific goals in that sweet spot.
Yep. And immediate feedback is vital to stay there. Know how you're doing, moment to moment, adjust. Can be built in or external. Need minimal feedback for flow, enough to steer by.
Autonomy again, choosing the task. And the basics. Sleep, exercise, working when alert, freedom to chase flow. Saying no to protect that time.
Then there are external triggers. Environmental factors, high consequences threats, danger boosts, and norepinephrine dopamine. That adrenaline rush feeling is really those focus chemicals, different from the internal challenge skills risk.
Novelty, complexity, unpredictability, NCU. Grabs attention, triggers seeking, like the Pixar atrium design forcing random interactions. Increase NCU in your environment.
Deep embodiment, total physical presence, all senses engaged,
Yeah.
dancing, surfing. And creativity itself can be a trigger.
And group flow triggers, getting teams in sync.
Shared concentration, shared clear goals, good communication, group feedback, blending egos, humility, shared identity. Equal participation, everyone challenged, contributing fully. Familiarity, shortcuts, prediction, shared risk.
Okay, so the actionable insight. Be intentional about triggers, set tasks in the sweet spot, challenge skills, clear goals, feedback. Leverage intrinsic motivation, increase novelty consequences safely. For groups, focus on shared goals, communication, trust, equal engagement, so much you can control there. And the 1-hour guide has resources that can help you think about applying these triggers in a business context too.
Absolutely. Knowing the triggers is huge, but Chapter 22 adds crucial context, the flow cycle. You can't live in flow, it's a cycle, 4 stages: struggle, release, flow, recovery.
And the hard parts, struggle and recovery, are necessary, not just annoying obstacles.
Necessary biological requirements, but the skills from the book Grit Mastery help you navigate them faster, better.
Stage 1, struggle. Starts in frustration, loading the brain with info. PFC, hyperactive, inner critic, loud.
Yep, gotta handle frustration to get to flow. Neurobiologically, flow needs new critical info, salience. If tired, stress, struggle leads to overwhelm. If trained, brain fights back productively, seeking solutions.
Stage 2, release. Stepping back from the struggle.
Yeah.
Critically important.
Need to shut down that hyperactive PFC. Go for a walk, music, chores, shower. Lightly stimulating activities. Occupy the conscious mind just enough to let the subconscious process, like MacGyver incubation.
Stage 3, flow itself, peak performance. How do you stay in?
Lean on high consequences, if applicable, to deepen it. Maintain focus and thought control. Flow boosts pattern recognition, can lead to tangents. Learn self-restraint. Follow useful tangents, drop dead ends, return to task. Takes practice.
And remember, flow's limits. PFC is down, so not good for logical decisions, long-term planning during flow. Have insights in flow, plan execution after.
Exactly. Stage 4, recovery. Essential. Flow is costly, burns neurochemicals. Need to recharge.
And this needs recovery grit, because it feels like stopping momentum. Burnout is the enemy.
Huge enemy. And active recovery is key. Mindfulness, sauna, stretching, baths, massage, ice baths. Not passive stuff like TV beer. Be gritty about recovery.
So the actionable insight. See peak performance as a cycle. Embrace struggle. Strategically release. Leverage flow. Prioritize active recovery. Sustain it over time.
Which brings us to Chapter 23, all together now. Integrating everything. Motivation, learning, creativity, flow, and the order matters.
Start with the deep foundation. Curiosity, passion, purpose. Takes time, patience.
Stack goals and grit on top. Define the what, build the tenacity.
Amplify with learning and creativity. Get skills, find solutions.
Turbo boost with flow, accelerate results.
And the book offers that daily, weekly checklist, synthesizing it all into a routine. Might seem underwhelming, but focuses on consistent basics.
Right, like 5 minutes gratitude daily, 20 minutes release mindfulness, maybe MacGyver preload, 25 minutes learning loading, reading, 80-20 skill practice, 30 minutes exercise, 7.5 8-hour sleep, 120 minutes weekly social support, EQ, group flow practice, creativity mastery woven into everything.
Small actions, consistently done. The power is compound interest, stacking up over time, progress beyond imagination.
And the sources mention further training options for those wanting to go deeper, like the Zero to Dangerous program. Resources you could potentially explore via the 1-hour guide site if you're looking for structured application.
But the core message is clear. Go get started with the practice. Theory's great, application is everything.
So wrapping up, achieving the impossible, not magic, there's a formula. Aligning biology and psychology through consistent practice. Motivation, learning, creativity, flow.
These are trainable skills. Specific actions, triggers, processes, all laid out in the sources.
And here's that provocative thought to leave you with. If the land study is right, and 4-year-olds are creativity geniuses, and flow taps into that same kind of brain state, what impossible things might you unlock just by consistently applying these practices? Makes you wonder, doesn't it?
It really does. A compelling thought.
Thank you for joining us today for this deep dive. We've been exploring the source material for The Art of Impossible, a peak performance primer by Steven Kotler.
Thank you for joining us today. Buy the book at the 1 Hour Guide website for more business insights.